guys. I said it sounded like something that came out of your mouth, but you said it's basically something you've been preaching all year. Does it change at all?
No. I mean, our approach to the season is every game's a playoff game. And by doing that, you put yourself in a position where you have talented players that play well consistently. Now you're playing home baseball at this time of year. So that's the first phase of it. Then the other phase of it is you don't have to change anything when you get to this point. And, if there's a team that deserves to play with a lot of confidence based on what they've done, this team deserves that because they've respected the process to get here, and they know what it looks like, and I trust them a lot. And so, yeah.
What have you liked about the last 7 or 8 days, just in terms of preparation?
It's been great. I feel great about it. Friday in Hoover, we had a meeting and got some things in line, and then went right to work on how we were going to operate the week. Had another meeting on Saturday morning before we left, and itinerary was set, plans for the coaching staff. We went to work on some things with some guys right away, both health-wise and development-wise. And we really had a good week. We gave them Saturday off. I mean, we basically bust home. Took most of the day Saturday. Gave them Sunday off. They haven't had 2 days off probably since I've been the coach here, other than Christmas break. So that was good. And then really deliberate training this week, and in a good spot.
The 3 starters that you'll need this weekend to win, no matter what order they come in, how do you feel about those guys?
Well, you might need 5 based on the bracket, but our team is our team. Our team, only lost 2 weekends in the toughest league in the country. The regional format's obviously a little different than a league weekend, but playing in Round Rock, was a good experience. Playing a preseason tournament here, playing in Hoover, I think they're well versed in tournament play. But more important than the opponent is, you're looking at guys that have a real experience. Ty pitched in the NCAA tournament last year. Paul pitched in the NCAA tournament last year at Texas. You're looking at, Thatcher has pitched a ton of important games here, both at UCLA. Nate Ackenhausen pitched in Junior College World Series. Riley has probably more NCAA tournament appearances than any pitcher in the tournament. That's a good thing, and not a lot of teams can say that. But really, more important than any of that is what they've just kind of went through and had to execute through. And sometimes, there's some temporary pain with some of the failures, but it exposes you to things you need to do better. And, when you have a great pitching coach like Wes that can evaluate those things, they have all the resources as far as what they need to do, both mentally and physically. It's their time, and I feel great about them.
Timely hitting was kind of the problem, I guess, in the SEC tournament. Well, how do you address that, and what goes into that?
Well, you get 91 RBIs back on the field and in the lineup. That will help out tremendously, because I have a feeling he would have come up 4 times with guys on base. So that will be helpful. I think we kind of cleared the deck. And again, I've said this before, you want to do better in those situations. Winning baseball usually comes down to like 6 or 7 pitches a game. You usually don't know when they're coming, but they're usually coming with guys on base. And we've been really good for 2 years. And sometimes it seems like we leave a lot of guys on, but we get more guys on than anybody else in college baseball. And so I think we cleared some things up, and I think we'll be well positioned to do our deal a lot better this weekend. And it was a good learning experience. Very painful. Again, that's an awesome tournament in Hoover, and I would have liked to have played a little better offense on Friday. But the pitching staffs of those 2 programs had something to do with it too. Holland and Hagen Smith for Arkansas. For them to beat us twice, they had to both pitch in the same game twice. So that's a challenge. And then, a lot of respect. Will Johnston threw good against us for Texas A&M. If you ask me, who were the tougher guys that we saw in the league, he would have been on my list of 7 or 10 pitchers that we saw. So, yeah.
How juiced are you to see what this thing's like tomorrow? I'm sure you heard a lot of stories about the box and the postseason, etc. You jazzed to see it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think we got a little bit of a taste of it. We have a good team. And when you got players like Dylan and Paul, people have wanted to come out and see them all year long. And so we've had some great environments. Arkansas, the Saturday night, the doubleheader, that's one of those regular season games I'll remember forever. Tennessee, obviously, Alabama, we were down 7-1, and next thing you know, we're up 8-7, and everybody's losing their mind. And we love that, about the people that come in here. And I'm excited we were able to deliver on getting them postseason baseball. It hasn't happened in 4 years, and that's something that everybody's really excited about.
Jay, in the preseason, you talked about with your team that's so low, the roster so low. You talked about past LSU teams where guys emerged later in the year.
Yeah.
Where's Hayden Trubinsky fit in that role?
I love Hayden. I was just talking to somebody else about this earlier in an interview today that, when we got here, so that it would be the fall of 22, and we're going through our development, individual work, myself, Coach Wanaka, Tyler Norgren, who was here last year, our director of ops, we were pointing at him going like, this guy can be one of our best hitters and best players. And this was just through the month of September. Then he tore his meniscus. So he missed the entire fall, wasn't really ready at the beginning of the season, so missed out on all that development time. He actually worked his way in there last year once Alex went down, so it was him and Tyler McManus, and had some big games for us last year. He had an at-bat at Mississippi State that kept the game going, that probably turned our season to where we ended up being a 40-win team and a top 4 team in the SEC, and hit some big homers. And then came back this year, and then it was an arm thing. And then found himself behind the 8 ball. But I give him a lot of credit because he just kept working, kept developing, kept improving. And more importantly than anything, he never one time, complained about, I'm not the guy. And showed some real character and maturity and leadership. And so when it was his time, he was ready. And I don't think you could ask for a better example of how you want guys to be than the way Hayden has been this year. And he's a real player. This isn't like some feel-good story. It's feel-good in the sense he put the team ahead of himself, but when it was his time, he's taken off. And he's one of our best players right now.
Does a regional change how you play in this pitching staff?
Yeah, it can, but it's a one game at a time. You look at all the opponents. It's been a late night deal around here, since the bracket was announced, and really credit our staff for looking at each team and matching it up appropriately with the pitchers that we have and getting ready for the opposing pitchers we're going to face. But it's one at a time. Great opponents. This one that we're playing is playing great right now. And what a week they had. Oregon State, perennially one of the 2 or 3 best teams on the West, have a lot of NCAA tournament success. They've won 3 national championships in the last 17 years. And Sam, Houston, I don't know, it's like something in the bylaws that whatever regional I'm in, they seem to show up in. And that means you're winning your conference tournament a lot. So they're good in tournament play. We played them this season, one of the best offenses in the country. And so, we'll line it up. And whoever's out there in the first inning, the 5th inning, the 7th inning, the 9th inning, extra innings, we'll try to help them be successful.
Do you think with that, do you think if Paul's got to go 8, he's going to go 8? Stretching out your starters?
Yeah, I think it's one at a time, depending on who's out there. I guess you would say he's possibly best conditioned to do that. Javen, we'll see how he does, but we got a little bit of a break for him last week where he only had to throw 22 pitches. I would have loved for him to be able to throw Saturday or Sunday, but we feel good about getting him out there, and he's at a place to go for it. Hurd's done a little bit of both. Floyd's done a little bit of both. He was relieving early in the season, but we would not have taken him out of the game last Friday if this wasn't coming up. That was a hard part about the SEC tournament. We lost 2 one-run games where I made 2 pitching moves that I would never make except for the situation that we're in with the NCAA tournament coming. We actually were lined up in the Thursday game. Had we had the lead, we would have gone to tie on Thursday last week. And, it's too bad that wasn't able to happen.
You mentioned the week that Tulane had just now. How different
That's not even the same. Yeah, I mean, I literally grabbed my folder, I threw it in the garbage, and just started watching, the last 2 weeks. And credit to them. They're very well coached. And again, I think I said this the other day, but massive hat tip. Like, they went through some massive adversity last year. I mean, we got a player at Ole Miss. I can't remember where the catcher went transferred to, but they got gutted. And when you go through coaching changes now with the current dynamic, that's going to happen. And so for them to be playing today after all of that, massive respect and hat tip.
You had 5 or 6 new non-conference teams you played, or in the NCAA tournament. It's something you're proud of, or I guess probably play.
I didn't guess, but there's a lot that goes into that. And I think COVID taught me something in scheduling. Like, we don't have to be like football and go 12 years in advance. And the RPI matters, and I think we're either 4 or 5. Once the bracket goes up, I don't ever look at that anymore. But you want to play teams that are going to win games. And just because the fans or the media doesn't know it's not a big-name football school, they can create a lot of value. So Samford, they won 38 games. I mean, they're a 3 seed. They're not a 4 seed. Sam Houston is here. Central Connecticut State went 35-12. Iowa is in the NCAA tournament. Kansas State was probably one of the first 4 out. We actually probably would have even been better. We had one team that really pulled the strength. They had a tough year, and they pulled their strength of schedule down a little bit. But, yeah, I pay a lot of attention to that. And when you coach at a mid-major where you don't have the luxury of built-in RPI of playing in the SEC, which nobody does, you have to get good at those types of things. So I take a lot of pride in that.
Do you feel like the tide is turning on kids looking at pro ball out of high school with success stories like Dylan and Paul even?
I would hope so. I'm not that optimistic yet, only because, money changes things for people. And I don't ever make judgments on people's situations relative to that. But, I mean, if you wanted to stay in here for 10 hours and argue about what I think's better to do, I could do it, and I'm going to win, that argument. So if our guys are out there listening, I mean, it's pretty simple. If you're a first-round pick and a team's going to pay you so much money you never have to work again, that's great, and that matters. But for your life, this is better. I mean, you'll be a better player playing at LSU, whether it's, a pitcher, a hitter, playing in the SEC. You'll be a better player. You'll be a better person. You'll have a more productive life. And there's a lot of examples you can point to, and I stand by that.
I feel like this year's a little different, having covered this team for many years, as far as you kind of know your top-end guys and where they're going to be slotted in the draft, and it's not a worry or a concern. You feel like it's as least of a concern as you've ever had it for a player because you got a couple of really kind of know.
I think it's about who they are. Like those guys they're special, and they don't let the situation become bigger than their plan or their maturity. Those are easy decisions for the teams based on the talent, and then as those teams get to know the person, it's a wrap. And that's no disrespect to any superstar high school player out there, college player, but there's no way you pass those two. They're unbelievable.
Dylan, you're obviously on game day. You're coaching, trying to win, and busy and whatnot. But have you seen the girl Aubrey and leaving the 4 tickets for kids every game, special needs kids that he's done?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think, one of my favorite memories, honestly, of 2 years of being the coach here is he had all those families on the field after our last home game on Tuesday night against McNeese. And, I mean, I literally just stood out there and just in disbelief and just watching how present he was and how engaged he was, and where it's this guy can do whatever he wants. I mean, literally. And he chooses to do things like that, think of others first, people that aren't as fortunate as him. And that's what I'm talking about. You have Mike Trout of college baseball that is the greatest human being on the planet. And I remember I was probably late coming in to talk to you guys because I'm sitting out there just watching this this dude does not exist anymore, period. And when I talk about him never coming around again, talent, person, leader, teammate, it's more than all there. He's the standard.
Earlier, Paul said that he wouldn't have come to LSU So now the goal is to win in the ring because he has come up short. What does that mean to you to hear?
Oh yeah, like I mean, and that's another example of Paul's not talking about Paul getting something for himself. It's about somebody else, and that's leadership. You know, can you make the needs of the team above your own? And he said that. He said that, you know, in team settings, and is very authentic in that. And you know, they're yeah. I mean, when you sit down with him, like, and have a meeting with Paul Skenes, like, I mean, I always try to be on it, but it's like, I know I got to be on it when I'm talking with him because he's going to know if I'm not. And, you know, his intent and purpose and everything that he does is next level special. And just like Dylan, when you put that talent with that mind, you get Paul Skenes. And it's pretty awesome.
How do you think Paul has sort of handled all the extra, I guess, attention and media attention, draft attention he's sort of gotten this year just because of his, you know, sudden performance?
Well, it's not sudden because he was one of the best pitchers in the country last year. And just people don't follow Air Force the way people follow LSU. And the Mountain West is not the SEC. Great conference. I mean, I loved my 2 years in it. But I think it's exciting for me to see that for him because he deserves it. And he just probably needed the platform to do that. And it's great for him, and it's opened things up for him that weren't there a year ago. And I think he's, like everything else, he handles it as good as a human being can handle it. And that's going to have a long-term effect on what we're doing here, because there's not another Paul Skenes out there, but there's another great pitcher that's probably in a similar situation that watched what happened here, and that's going to benefit us going forward.
Well, you've got guys like Dylan and Paul, the draft guys that they are. Is it helpful or beneficial in any way, or not so, to have the draft in July instead of like this time of year?
That's a great question, and that's a great question. And just like everything else in life, I mean, there's positives to things and there's negatives to things, okay? There is some massive negatives for college baseball to have it when they have it now. The one positive is, you know, guys aren't on their phone in the middle of the NCAA tournament. You know, like literally there was a story, I want to say it was Ole Miss. I could be wrong about this, but like it wasn't the guy that was pitching that night, but the starting pitcher from the game before like had to excuse himself from the dugout in game 3 of a super regional to talk to a pro team or agent or something like that. And that's tough, man. That's not a good position to put the players in. And when you have players like we have here that they're giving everything they have to this thing, it's nice for them to be able to do that without thinking about that. And then it's also nice in July that when this is all wrapped up, like they've earned that opportunity that they can really enjoy that too. And so the more I think about it, the more I think it's probably a really good thing. Logistically, really tough to deal with where it's at right now.
What makes a great defensive player like Trey, who can obviously do things the last 2 years at first base, but also do them in left field like he's been able to the last several months?
Yeah, he's a great athlete. He's a baseball player. And when you pair athleticism with instincts and know-how, and then just will, he's a competitor, and then you mix the other physical skills of hand-eye. I mean, it's a total package, person, player, all of those types of things. And it's been fun to see him. I mean, it's been great for him to show the things that he can do. You could probably put him in center field. He'd be the best left-handed second baseman or third baseman that ever played baseball. Yeah, he's done quite the work out there this year.
When you bring in a bunch of new guys like you did this year, it seemed like a lot of them transitioned seamlessly and, you know, bonded pretty quickly. What goes into building that kind of culture when you are grabbing a lot of guys from the transfer portal?
Yeah, I think the only credit I would give our staff, our coaching staff, is you have to be intentful and have awareness. You know, kind of like if you can predict what a problem can become, then you can prevent it by being intentional in how you plan it. So that would be what I'd say we did. But then from the player side of it, when you have strong player leadership, that goes a long ways too. And I would give these guys the highest marks. You know, the two guys that we've been talking about, Cade Beloso, Gavin Dugas, Hayden Travinsky, as I just mentioned. It's never been about like, oh, somebody else is taking my spot or I'm not getting mine or reps, and they've made it all about the team, and makes that part of it a lot of fun. And it'll be that much more gratifying if we accomplish our goals, and you can live with it with peace of mind if you don't, because everybody was pointed in the same direction, and that hasn't deviated. You're never perfect, and there's growing up and learning along the way sometimes, but the players have really controlled that really, really well. All right, thank you.